You may be wondering, where actually is my Bitcoin? The answer is actually different than what you might think. So if you have Bitcoin on Coinbase or River or a service like that, or in Cash App or in Robinhood or in PayPal, you probably think that's where your Bitcoin is. That's actually not where your Bitcoin is. All Bitcoin, all the time, is on the Bitcoin blockchain, which is replicated across more than 100,000 Bitcoin nodes over the world, including running on satellites. So where actually is your Bitcoin? No matter where you think your Bitcoin is, all Bitcoin all the time is only ever on the Bitcoin blockchain. Okay, so what is River and Coinbase and Bitkey? Why do people say that's where my Bitcoin is? And how could that not be where it is? And the answer is because that is where you hold the private keys to your Bitcoin. All Bitcoin is always on the Bitcoin blockchain, but who controls the private keys to that Bitcoin determines who gets to spend the Bitcoin, who gets to send the Bitcoin to someone else, etc. So if your Bitcoin is on Coinbase, what that means is Coinbase holds the private keys to your Bitcoin, and you access those private keys with a username and password and a two-factor authentication code that usually they send to your email, for example. Okay, if same with River, same with Robinhood, same with PayPal, same with any of that, your Bitcoin is always on the Bitcoin blockchain, and you are using the private keys that are held by one of those companies to access your Bitcoin. So Bitkey is similar, with the difference being you actually hold your private keys. In the case of Bitkey, your private keys are actually within your control. Because the way it works, I won't go into all the technicalities, but your private key to your Bitcoin is on your phone and it's on the key device, and a backup key is encrypted and stored on the block servers. So it requires two of those keys to move the Bitcoin. So if you lose your Bitkey device, your phone can restore the key to your device. If you lose your phone, the Bitkey device can restore the key to your phone. If you lose your phone and your Bitkey device, then there's an encrypted copy of your private key in your iCloud account or your Google account. And one of your, what's called, they used to be called trusted contacts. Now they're called recovery contacts. One of your recovery contacts can help you decrypt that key that is stored in your iCloud account or your Google account to move your Bitcoin. So the big difference about Bitkey is that you control those private keys yourself, which means Coinbase or River or PayPal, they can never take your Bitcoin away because it's you control the keys. Even the company behind Bitkey, which is called Block, which makes the Square payment terminals and the Cash App and a lot of other things. In fact, the Square, the company, just got added to the S&P 500 as one of the 500 most prominent, largest companies in America. So good for them. That's a big deal. And the company is run by Jack Dorsey, who was one of the co-founders of Twitter before he sold it to Elon Musk. And Jack Dorsey's great, and he's a huge proponent in favor of Bitcoin. So the big, powerful thing about Bitkey is you control the keys yourself, which means nobody can lock you out. Nobody can take your keys. You know, the government can't seize your funds unless they physically seize you, or they go find your Bitkey device and your phone and unlock it and all of that, which is obviously, requires a warrant and virtually always your participation, because otherwise they would not know where to find it and where to get it and what to do with it and all of that. So the power of Bitkey, which is Bitkey, bitkey.world, WORLD is their website. The power of that is you hold the private keys. But again, in all scenarios, everyone's Bitcoin from the beginning of time until now and forevermore, the Bitcoin itself will always be on the Bitcoin blockchain. So when people say, I have it on Coinbase, I have it on Robinhood, what they mean is, I am trusting those companies to hold my private keys for me. The Bitcoin is always on the Bitcoin blockchain. And when you transfer Bitcoin or you send it or you spend it, it is moving ownership on the Bitcoin blockchain from you to someone else or from somebody else to you. But again, all of those companies I mentioned are just holding the private keys for you. The difference about Bitkey, which is why I'm such a big fan of it, is that you control the private keys. And they built it where it's basically impossible to lose the private keys. Like I've gone into with other videos why it's basically completely impossible to lose your private keys with Bitkey. So I won't, regurgitate all of that here. But Bitkey has basically made it impossible to lose the keys to your Bitcoin. and entrusted you with the power of having those keys. And they even have an inheritance feature set up that if something happens to you, your loved ones can unlock your Bitcoin after a 6-month waiting period. And they've got, it's just brilliant. It's genius. Like everything about it is just like one of the most ingenious things humans have ever made. So where's your Bitcoin? Always on the Bitcoin blockchain. Who controls your keys? Maybe it's River, maybe it's Coinbase, maybe it's Robinhood, maybe it's PayPal, maybe it's Cash App. Ideally, it's you. Ideally, it's you because you bought a BitKey device and you control your own keys so that the ability to move and spend and buy and sell Bitcoin is 100% in your control and nobody can take it away from you. And that is the beauty of BitKey. So especially if you have more than $5,000 of Bitcoin and you want to save it, store it safely outside of the hands of hackers and scammers, all of that, BitKey is absolutely positively the answer to that. But even in that case, again, the Bitcoin itself is still on the Bitcoin blockchain. You're just unlocking it, moving it, and spending it with private keys, which is always the case. And BitKey puts those private keys in your hands, which is very, very powerful and pretty amazing. Have a great evening, everyone.